Okay, good to see you all. Happy whatever today is, Thursday, I think. Excited that we get to play a bit here. Some of you have been here for a while, for a couple of weeks. Others are new. And to some of you, this is going to be a repetition, but repetition I find is a good idea. So let me change my view here so I can see more of you. There you go. And so I'm going to treat it as such that I'm just going to start from scratch and show people, again, kind of focus mostly on where we see people tending to struggle a little bit initially in the early days of getting their heads around, what's here. And again, if you just get these fundamentals that I'm going to try to go over with you in this 1 hour, the rest of it should be dramatically easier than if you don't quite get these fundamentals, if you don't quite feel really solid with them. And so that's what we're going to be focused on. And so I'm going to get into the weeds on some things that, again, some of you might seem obvious, but to others I know are not obvious. And I hope that all of this helps everybody go together. I can see your faces. Thank you for keeping your camera on. Luis is paying attention if he needs to stop me or chime in and, give me other ideas. You can give me thumbs up, down. You guys know how this works, yeah? Okay. Let's get into it. So let's make a new agent. And again, let's give this agent a name. And I'm going to call this extract learnings. Okay. You can also give these agents icons. Don't know if I have any handy, but let me show you how I do it, because I think some of you, I forget who it was, picked up on this game, and I think this is great. I go to flat icon. You can go to any other icon service. And then whatever, for this one, I might write, it's like, bullets, bullet points, kind of an icon I'm looking for, something like that, cool. Okay, but this has nothing to do with bullet points, but it's shiny red. And so why not? And I can just say download and whoops, and I can get the ping and I can just do free download because I'm just going to be using it for myself. It's going to go ahead and download it. Now I've got an icon. This is like one place out of countless where you can get icons, and it's nice to have icons because otherwise you get these like little blue generated things. And so I tend to do that whenever I build an agent. I give it an icon, I give it a name. You can give it a bunch of other things here that we're not going to get into in this class. Eventually we will, and certainly you yourself should look around there in your spare time, if you've got any, to understand kind of like what's there. So I'm trying to get you guys on the screen and kind of failing a bit.
And
okay.
While Dimitri's getting his screen on, like this is all framing like what we've already learned, right? Which is we have been building these agents with this very fundamental pattern. And so that's what Dimitri's demonstrating right now.
Okay. And so I'm going to close this. I'm going to look at this. Okay. So again, I think all of you have seen this now. This is how we build agents. Agents are made up of workflows. There can be one or many. Today, we're only going to be dealing with one workflow agent, so you don't have to worry about that. We're also not going to be using any of these functions or data sources today either, and we probably won't even use any of these user inputs. So we're just going to be focused on this one area here. We're going to take this thing and we're going to make this browser extension. And by making this browser extension, again, I think all of you have probably seen me talk about this, it automatically gives us these things called launch variables. And this is what I want to talk about right now. What are these launch variables that are here as part of this extension, okay, that are just given to us? We don't have to do anything to create these variables. They are automatically created for us by the browser extension when the button is clicked. Each time the agent runs, each time you click the button, instantly your agent knows the URL of the page on which the button was clicked. and some of these other things. And I actually want to take advantage here to actually list these things out. And look what I'm going to do. I'm going to click plus, and instead of using our standard generate text block here, I'm actually going to use this block called display content. And display content block is very different from the generate text block. It doesn't call any model. All it does is display content back to the user that's running the agent. In this case, if we're building the agent for ourselves, this is just our agent. So it's just going to display things for us. And what I want to display here is I wanted to print out all of these variables that are here, what's stored in these variables. Okay, and so the first one we're going to do is URL, right? And I'm just going to do it like this. I'm going to say URL, and then how should I do it? Double curly braces, right? Double curly braces URL. Oops, URL. Okay, and so it's going to put the URL there. And then I'm just going to put like a big line here. And then we're going to put, what's the next one? Metadata. And so I'm going to say metadata. And then here, I'm going to do double curly braces, metadata. Okay. I'm going to go and I'm going to do a bunch of other lines here. And then I'm going to say, what's the next one? Page content. I'm actually going to skip that for a moment. I'm going to show you user selection. Selection. And then here we're going to say user selection. And then we're going to do page content. And here we're going to do page content. Okay. And are you guys following me here? I'm just gonna, it's just going to print out all these variables. What's stored in these variables? I want you to see it with your own eyes, you know. And then HTML, and like this can get a lot of stuff printed out. Let's see if it even, you know, prints all of this out on a page for us, but it should. And this is raw HTML. Okay. And so again, we've got this little agent here. It's just going to display it to the user. And again, I'm just going to go ahead and publish it. And I'm just going to, you know, use it on, hold on, docs. Let's do, oops, not that. This masterclass demo thing. I've got like this link of this like long read of some sort, right? And I'm going to click here, right? Because we published it. It's now available for me right here, right? And these are my agents. And so I'm going to say run. And so again, as soon as I say run, this thing got a bunch of, now it's poorly formatted, so we're going to have to parse it here. Like, you know, those delimiters didn't do much here, unfortunately, for us. But, you know, we can get through it. So for the URL, this is the URL, right? And of course, this is the same as this, right? So our agent knows the URL. In that variable URL, this stuff is stored. In the variable metadata, okay, we get all of this stuff right here. Okay, and again, this here, don't be scared of it, but this, when you see these like open curly braces, something in quotes, then followed by a colon and something else in quotes, then followed by a comma, this is called JSON. We're not going to get into it here, but soon you guys are going to be JSON masters. And when you are, all kinds of new things open up. And so this is a bunch of stuff that's in the metadata of that page. Typically, it's like, what's the title of the page? What's the title of this web page? Like when you share this URL to Facebook, the things that show up in your post, where you get the image automatically showing up and the title and the description, those come from here, or the favicon, you see. And so all of this is coming from this metadata. Then below that, user selection has nothing in it, right? Because we didn't select anything when we click the button. But if we had, whatever we're selecting would have been stored in this user selection section. This is the page content, and the page content is all the visible things that we see on the page. See, this is like all very readable. And that's all the page content that's in the page content variable. And then below that, you get kind of all the codey things that come to it in the thing. So all of these variables exist already, and they are stored for us. Whoops. Let's close this up here. Let's go back here. They are stored in these inputs. Okay. Now I'm going to take this block right here, and I'm actually going to go ahead and blow it away. We're going to use it again. And here, I'm going to change this for now to be on demand. How many of you have seen these user input controls that we have already? Forms, have you played with user inputs? Some of you, okay, great. For others, this is going to be new, but that's okay. Even though this thing isn't about user inputs that we're going to do here, I want to show you how you can create variables by user input. So I'm going to say user input. I'm going to say plus, create new. And here we're going to call this, we're going to make this long text. This is fine. And we're going to call this thing right here topic. Actually, I'm going to make this short text over here. I'm going to call this topic, and I'm going to say enter a topic. Okay. And then I'm going to close this, and I'm going to create another user input in here. And I'm going to say create new. And I'm also going to make this short text. And I'm going to call this style. Okay. And here I'm going to say enter a style. And so now we have these two user inputs here. And again, let's quickly run this so you can see what happens. Here, what is it saying? It's saying I got an error. Let's take a look at what the error is. We didn't do anything in here. We can just say hello world for now. And so we're going to say publish. Again, we are going to open this agent up now because we changed it not to be browser extension, but we changed it to be run on demand right here. Okay. And by the way, all of these things kind of go away. So we're just on demand. And so now if we open this agent, what we get is we get a form. This is how you create applications. And this thing is responsive. So you can view it on mobile, you can view it on desktop, and you create form fields. And so we can enter a topic and we can enter a style. Okay. And so I'm going to go back here and then I'm going to show you, I'm going to go to this display block here. And instead of saying hello world, I'm going to write, topic, and then here I'm going to say topic. And then I'm going to do one of these. I'm going to say style. And then here I'm going to say style. Okay. And we're going to publish these. And again, we're going to open this up. And we're going to say the topic is going to be how AI will take your job. And the style is going to be funny. Okay. And I'm going to say next. And what we get is we get the printout of what we said. The topic is how to take your job, and the style is funny. So again, variables, these things in curly braces that we can either create by creating user inputs to create variables that get created for us. If we make this browser extension, they get automatically created, but they're things that exist and we can use them at any time. They're long lasting. We can then continue down the path, for example, and if we wanted to take this, we could say plus, and we could say generate text, and we could say write a blog post about this topic, and in the whatever specified style. Okay, and here I could say that the topic is topic, and that the style is the style. Double curly braces, style. Okay. And so this will then write a blog post about the topic and the style. Is everybody still with me? Yes. Okay, great. I'm going to delete this display content block because we're not going to use it for the rest of this thing. Okay. So right now we've got start on demand. We've got user input that simply collects topic and style. And then we're calling a model. In this case, we're calling Claude 3.5 Haiku, perfectly fine. And we're saying, write a blog post about this topic and in the specified style, okay? And this will work. And again, it'll display it to the user. And so again, we can say publish, we can say open agent, and we can say, how AI will disrupt office work. And the style is, funny. And then if I say next, AI is coming for your boring office job and honestly, good riddance. You see, listen up, cubicle warriors, spreadsheet warriors, robots are here. They're about to make your mind numbing office task look like a joke, okay? And so this works perfectly fine in doing this, right? We collected two variables, topic and style, and then we use those two other variables in a future block, okay? Okay, great. And of course, here we're just displaying this to the user, but we could also, if we wanted to, save this to a variable right here, right? Oops, make this a little bit bigger for us. We could save this to a variable, and we could keep going further to do that, okay? Now, one of the things that I'd like to start teaching you to do is to use some best practices in using variables when you're using variables in your prompts. And a best practice to do is, even though this worked, where I said topic colon topic, or I could say the topic is topic, right? But it's better, instead of doing this, to use a format called XML. Now, don't freak out when I'm about to start typing this. If it looks scary, it's anything but scary. This is a label thing that you can apply to this. And so when we have a variable, and in this case, it's named properly, topic, this is the topic of the blog. We named our variable well. We said this is the topic. We can simply open and close these, they're called angle brackets. So less than, greater than sign. And in it, it's good practice to add a label to this variable here, topic, okay? And then, actually, sorry, let me do something else here before I do this. Let me show you this. This might be a better way for you to see it. Yeah. I removed that thing that said topic and style, and I said, write a blog post about this topic and then the specified style. Right? And I do topic and style here. Now, what is the model going to see when it goes here? It's going to see the text, write a blog post about this topic and in the specified style. And then it's not going to see anything here that's called topic. It's just going to see the words that we wrote that are here, yeah? And so again, if the topic is going to be how, AI will take your job, it'll see that, and then it'll see, funny. But it's not going to see, what is this? Is this the topic? Or is this the style? In this case, it's clear that this is the style and this is the topic. But if, for example, I said, Edgar Allan Poe, and here I said something else, I'll take your, and this might seem more like it's also a style. And so this is about, whatever, Shakespeare. And so if which one is the topic and which one is the style in this case? Do you see? It would get confused. And so it's good practice to wrap these things, it's called, wrap them in these labels, okay? And this format's called XML. So I can say topic, and then here I can say, open these up again, put / topic. And so this opens the topic and this closes the topic, and everything in the middle is now the topic. And so now it's clear to the model, because the model will see, write a blog post about this topic and in the specified style. It's actually going to see these two things, and then inside of it, it would see Shakespeare. And here, we're going to wrap this in the same way, in style, and then here we're going to say end style. And in here, this thing is going to see the style. Now, don't worry about this color here, where these are like blue and green, and these are pink. Sometimes this happens. As long as the formatting is correct, that's perfectly fine. They can also be indented, that's fine. Spaces don't matter here. You can put a bunch more space if you want. But this is best practice, that whenever you use a variable, because of this potential thing that I was showing you, that there can be confusion, to put them in these labels. And that's what we will do from now on. As we build more things, we're going to put them in these little labels here.
And the other thing to note here is that this is not a MindStudio specific thing. This is actually a recommended best practice by major model providers. And so it actually helps those AI models understand what you're talking about much more than not including those tags and labels.
Exactly. Okay, so I wanted to show you that. And so here I'm just going to stick on this one because we got a nice icon here. And so I'm actually going to delete everything here. We're going to start from scratch. We're actually going to build some, again, these like button agents that I like to call them, the Chrome extension agents. So we're going to build our first agent here. And I'm going to say browser extension. Now we already know that all of these things are loaded up with all the goodies. And I'm going to say plus, and I'm going to say generate text, and I'm going to say extract all learnings. Okay. And then here, you know what we do now. I can say content, for example, meaning it's in this content. You can call these things anything you want, as long as it helps the model understand what it is you're pointing at here. And in here, I'm going to use this page content variable. Okay. And page content holds all of this stuff here, as if I either highlighted it like this, or I did Command A and highlighted all. That's what page content is going to have automatically here. And so if I say extract all learnings and then simply have this thing here, the model is going to see the words extract all learnings. It's going to see this, content. It's going to see this end content. And then inside of it is going to be a giant block of text. All of that text that comes from that page, right? And now we're just going to, again, display it to the user, and we're going to publish this thing, and we're going to go here, and we're going to run this again on our little page here. Extract learnings. We're going to run that. And this is going to extract learnings. And I want you to pay attention to what this feels like in extract learnings. It's a lot of content here, right? It's like a lot of bullet points. There's some structure. Again, we could make this better. Whoops, let's go back to this one here. And I can say, again, this is common practice, use Markdown. And that means format it a bit better, right? Yeah, I can publish it, and I can go back here and I can simply click here, run, and then new run. And then, it tends to do a better job of, like, this is easier to read than it was before. Okay, so use that. And so look what we're getting. We're getting, I would describe this. What I want you to pay attention to is the prompt. I'm going to show you a bunch of examples of how this prompt right here changes everything. We're going to actually keep this the same. We're not going to change this at all as we build more and more agents. We're just going to focus on this one prompt. And I want you guys to grok that just by changing things in this prompt, you can dramatically change what this agent does, what kind of an agent it is, okay? And we're going to stay basically on this one page always. And so we're going to be looking at, like, what happens if we run this kind of an agent on this page and a different kind of an agent on this page. So this is one version of that on this page, which is, we get this. Now, let's go ahead. So let me close a bunch of these other windows out now. We're not going to be using that. Okay. What would happen if in fact, I think Luis gave me some good examples here. Let's use them. What if I simply change this from extract all learnings to summarize the content into 5 concise bullet points? And I publish that, then, like, keep an eye on this here, where now if I run this again, well, this thing is going to feel quite different. Five bullet points. So you can say precisely what you wanted to do. And so you might have, again, as you start thinking about, like, what buttons should I make for myself? You might think about buttons like this, which is, I've got a button called So What? And this button isn't the button which is this TLDR extract all learnings. This button is like, okay, think through this and explain to me, what is this thing trying to say? How might I want to think about it? And it's a very different output that you get. What this actually means. What might this change? What is now possible because of this that wasn't possible before? Why is this different than from what's happened before? What new opportunities are opened up by this? What should I do? It knows who I am. You see? And so this thing, well, boy, this thing is much more powerful than that other one, but it's actually not much more sophisticated. In fact, I go and I open up this agent. It's the same thing. Look, this doesn't look any more difficult than another one. It's just browser extension this. What's different about it is the prompt is different. Analyze the provided content for the following. So what this actually means, see? And it's super easy. Return only the analysis, no other text. Use Markdown for readability. Here's the content. Okay. Let's continue and let's make more of these. Let's sort of keep modifying these because again, I want you guys to solidify in this. Extract the most important takeaways. We're just playing with prompts here. All we're changing is this. We're doing this. We're going here. Oops. And we're going to run it again over here. And so you can get this thing to do the work for you of extracting, of summarizing, of unpacking, not summarizing, so the opposite of summarization, of clustering things together, of analyzing in some way, right? And this is all, these are all in a sense different applications. And the only thing that really makes them different is, again, if you're writing SEO copy, it's trivially easy to build yourself a button that instantly writes SEO content for you by simply changing the prompt of this thing. In your case, you'd probably build new agents here for each one of these, so you can have separate buttons. I'm just changing the same one. And you see it wrote us this copy. It chose to put it in this thing, which is great for us on this case. Okay, let's keep going on this. Create a short, engaging LinkedIn post summarizing key ideas from the content. Is this making sense to you guys that by changing this, yes, okay, I see thumbs up. And so as long as, again, even if all you did the first week of boot camp is just come up with 50 ideas of making this agent, that's probably the best use of your time. It will get you thinking in these different dimensions of like, what could I do if I could just take some content and get it into my agent and get it to do something with it? These buttons are the things you're going to be making the most because they're super fast and they're really easy to make and they're super handy to have around. And for different people and in different situations, those might be exactly what you're looking for. Again, even though you can create amazing, much more sophisticated applications with MindStudio, agents with MindStudio, I propose that like really focus on making a bunch of these buttons and then asking your friends about your colleagues what they do and coming up with an idea of like, oh, wow, I can make you a button for that and do that. And again, that'll get your creative juices flowing. And that'll get you to start seeing opportunities instead of getting lost in like the like what block should I put there and like what configuration should I have? You know, if this is visual art, I've taught you to use a pencil. Just sketch for now. You don't need to go into acrylics just yet. We'll get there. Okay. And so, okay, so this is that. There's like countless examples of this. Luis, maybe we can share these ideas with people in the cohort in the curriculum, and because I don't want to go through all of these, but that they can sort of play with this. And
Yes.
again, ideas here on this. Okay, I'll make another one.
Sorry, really quick. One thing that you may have noticed in these prompts versus like in Dimitri's prompts is we included the content tagged at the top of the prompt. Dimitri in his example included the tag at the bottom of the prompt, but the order of that doesn't matter as much if you include that XML tag.
Right.
And the other thing to note is that you'll
Sorry, let me
notice.
just complete this here with this. If I took this here and put it over here, is there any difference? No, there is not. There is no difference to the model. It gets the exact same text. It will see that there's some content that we're giving it because it's going to see these things. It actually gets to see these. It doesn't get to see this text here. It doesn't get to see some text called page content. This text gets replaced by all the page content. And so the model will see this opening tag, a whole bunch of text, like all the text from that page. Then it's going to see this closing tag, and it will then know that whatever is between the opening tag and the closing tag, that all of this stuff, it should consider this to be the content that we are referring to here when we say create a short, engaging LinkedIn post from this content. It says what content? This content. It knows this is the content. So it doesn't matter if it's here. It doesn't matter if it's here, right? None of this matters. As long as it's wrapped in these labels, then the model will know that this is one bundle of things. This is a bundle called content. The rest of this is just random text, but it's going to understand that this is our command to it. This is our text. Does that make sense? And that's it. So whenever you use variables, let's say always use these wrapped things around them. And the names of this thing should be something that helps the model understand what is this. Okay, like so for example, if I said over here and called these things dog and end dog, the model would see create a short engaging link post about summarizing the key ideas from the content, and then it would see dog, and it would see a bunch of things that have nothing to do with a dog because this is about whatever movie going, and it might get a bit confused of like, why is this thing dog? What should I do with that? And it might inject in there something stupid like that. So we can call it something generic like content, or we can be more, something more specific if we wanted to. But this is generally the best practice. Does that make sense?
And just piggybacking off of what you just said, Dimitri, notice how in the prompt itself, we are referencing the label that we're applying directly. So when we're saying summarize key ideas from the content, we are identifying that variable as being the content.
Yeah, although that's true, and this is good practice. But again, just so you guys know, that even if I got rid of this, summarizing the key ideas, and then the model saw content, all the stuff inside of it, it would know that what we mean is summarize the ideas in this content.
Right.
Does that make sense? Just keep practicing. The best thing to do here is practice, practice, practice. That's why I say make dozens of these little buttons for yourself, for your friends, and then you will see that all of this stuff works. Always wrap variables in these XML tags, and you're good to go. Okay, let me show you another one. Let's make another one. It's page content. I'm going to say plus. I'm going to say generate text. And I'm going to say list alternatives to this, product service. And here, what I'm going to put is the same thing, our page content. Oops. Let's do it the right way. We'll say content. By the way, also you can do this in line if you want. Again, spaces don't matter. This is just as good. And here we can say page content. Okay, this is fine. This is fine. This is fine. Any of these things are fine as long as it's wrapped here in this. Okay, and so what is this thing going to do? What does that mean? List alternatives to this product or service. And so I'm going to say publish. And then I'm going to open this up and I'm going to go to stripe.com. And I'm going to click on my little button over here. And there's my alternatives agent. And I'm going to say go. And it's showing me the competitors to this thing. What other services might I want to use to do the competitors here? Okay. Now, by the way, it also happens to have links to this. List product alternatives is product, and I can give it a pattern. I could say, company name. I can say a link to, alternative website. And so, I'll should make it clear this is alternative company name, link to alternative company website, how they are different from this service. Okay, what is going to happen here? Let's take a look. I'm going to say go, and here I'm just going to rerun this. So now it's giving me the name, the link to the website, and then it's comparing them, how they're different. Or I could say list the strengths and weaknesses of each of these. And again, here, I should do something like we've already seen. I'm going to say use Markdown. And I can also, again, to add more stuff to here, I'll add it later. For now, I'm just going to say use Markdown. Let's see what happens if I do that. And so then I'll like create some structure for this, you see? Or I can be more specific on the formatting. We're going to get into templating here in a moment. So this same button, remember, like this is the same pattern. We simply give it the content and it does that. And again, now I can run this button on anything else. Like here's like Twilio. And so I can do a new run on this. And of course, it'll give me alternatives to Twilio. So if you're doing competitive research, you're doing shopping, you're doing whatever, you can make these little buttons, and these models know about the world. They can see what's on the page, and they can analyze it for you, and they can do your job. That's the, Peter, I see you getting it. I see like just in your face, like, things going off. That's what I'm looking for. That's the stuff. There's countless little things like this that will blow your mind. Come back next time, go in Slack. I want to see where you're like, I made one of these. That's crazy. I made one of these. Let's get in the habit right now, over the next couple of days, of just making a bunch of these things. Come up with your own ideas of what you could type into that prompt, where you just give the model this thing and then get it to do something. It's something valuable, to you, or it's just a random idea that you can do with this. Okay. Okay.
Dimitri, can we take a second? And
Yeah.
I know you've been using in the prompt, like use Markdown. Can we just take a second and quickly explain what Markdown is,
Yeah.
what it does, and then kind of on top of that, we know it does some sort of formatting, but what if I want a specific format to my output?
How about you drive actually,
Sure.
and give them a quick thing here too.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, let me go into MindStudio and I'll share my screen and I'll answer the question that I posed
Perfect.
for everyone
Yeah.
here. Can you all see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. So let's go ahead and we'll build a new agent here. And in this agent, we're going to use that same pattern that we've been talking about all of this masterclass. We're going to have that generate text block. We're going to change the run mode to browser extension so that we get all of these launch variables. And we're going to utilize that page content variable. There we go. And let's go ahead and use those double curly braces and select page content. Okay, now we have our prompt here. We're giving it context. I want to give it a task, so I can say extract all learnings from the content. And then let's go ahead and publish this. I'm going to call this just demo masterclass. We'll publish this and go to a site. And, for example, this this documentation from Anthropic that I shared about XML tagging. You can see I have this demo masterclass agent. We're running it. And when we get something back, it's completely unstructured. We haven't given it any sort of formatting. And so what Dimitri has done inside of the prompt here is he's used this instruction of use Markdown. So let's quickly talk about what Markdown is. Markdown is this thing that formats the text that is displayed. So if we take a look at, I'm going to move this to the side really quick, and we're going to have a display content block. We're just going to use these nodes, drag it, and skip over this block. We can use Markdown to format the text. So if I use these hashtags, this represents different sizes of text. H1 header, H2 header. Let's take a look at what that looks like. We can type hello. With 2, I'm going to type how are you? We can do 3. I'm good, you. And let's quickly see what this looks like. I'm going to preview this. Hold on one second. Let me actually switch this back to on demand so that we don't have to worry about this browser extension stuff. And we'll preview this just to look at the output of this. So you can see that we get these different sizes of text. Now there's a bunch of different ways that we can format that text. And if you look online and look up this Markdown cheat sheet, there's a bunch of them. I like this one. I'm going to share this one with everyone. You can see that there's a bunch of different things that you can do to format that text. That includes headers. That includes creating lists, like numbered lists. You can link to things. You can even add images, a bunch of different stuff that I recommend you look at. And we end up using this in a lot of our agents to display different kinds of outputs.
Yeah, it's a simple way to format the look of text or yeah.
Yeah. So with that in mind, what we can do inside of our agents, I'm gonna delete this block and we'll reconnect it back to our original agent, is we can provide this prompt with, rather than saying use Markdown, we can also include an example output. And we can create a template for how we'd like that AI agent to output its response. So we can use tagging for this too, right? I can use a tag here, and instead of content, I can call it example output. You can name it whatever you'd like, but this is what I use. Example output. And then we can begin to include different kinds of formatting for this AI agent's response. So I can say, I can use an H1 using this single hashtag, and I can say, this is the title. I can have, an H4 and say, this is a subtitle. I can use these square brackets to represent a large chunk of text. So we can say a catchy hook for our learnings. And then we can say a list of, key learnings. And this is prompting the formatting of the agent here. So let's go ahead and take a look at what this looks like. And we can adjust as we go. That's what's nice about being able to test these agents live. Oop, let me switch this actually back to browser extension before I forget. We'll republish that. There we go. And now let's take a look at, we'll go to The Verge, and we'll click on this random article, and we'll use this demo masterclass agent. and let's take a look at what it generates.
You have
And
an
we can see
error.
what's happening.
What?
Sorry?
Kind of doing this earlier too. Is that some kind of an error in your? Oh no, there
No,
it is.
it's just
Being patient.
sometimes patience is the key.
Sometimes, yeah.
So take a look at what it's generating here, right? This is a very long output, but look at the formatting of the text here. We have that same exact formatting that we have prompted it with. We have that H1 header, that big text. We have this H4 header as our subtitle. We have a catchy hook, and then we have a list of the learnings here. And you can get very granular with this if you want to. But this is a technique that we call templating, because what you're doing is you're giving it a template for how to output its responses. Does that make sense? And so it's super important that you understand how to use Markdown, because it actually lets you create these sorts of templates. You don't have to use Markdown for this stuff. Like, it's totally cool to say, you know, big header title, small header subtitle. And this could work, but it's not exact like the other one is. And you also don't need these square brackets. Like Dimitri says, the AI model is really good at understanding ambiguity. So you can play around with different template types, see what works and doesn't work for you. Everybody following along? Does that make sense? Okay. I'll hand Dimitri, anything else that to add to this templating here?
Maybe like stop sharing here for a moment. So a couple of things. One, as I mentioned, I've got actually a hard stop here coming up. But I wanted to make sure that everybody knew that this weekend, Saturday, so 2 days from today, from 10 a.m. Pacific to 1 p.m. Pacific, I'm going to be holding, one of these, and we're going to dive into more templating, some other topics, take some, ideas maybe from the class. And it's going to be like a 3 hour. You can come and go as you like, but if you've got time, it'll be recorded, so you can always watch it later too. But just to not rush through it. And I'm actually going to prepare a whole bunch of examples that we're going to go through that hopefully can kind of package all of these things we've been showing you up some. But if you guys, again, end up showing up there, or if you don't, doesn't matter. What I encourage you to do after this is go and play around and come up with a bunch of little buttons for yourself. Build a bunch of buttons and just share them, share them in the Slack. I built this button, and this is what it does. Just tell us what it does, or take a screenshot of the output of it, of like what it does. And again, just to sort of kind of sort of keep yourself accountable for doing it, perhaps, and also that you will start to realize that there's like so many things that you can do with this, and then potentially play around with templating. Like, this is the playground. This is the stuff. Instead of like working on other projects right now that we've got you working on, spend a bit more time on the prompt stuff, on the templating stuff, and on the use case stuff, all with this like browser extension button. Click a button, do that. Think of it as like you're making yourself a little tool belt, of a tool you're going to want, and something you might want to pin. I showed you that so what thing. I use that so what thing, I don't know, 30 times a day, probably. And not all days. Some days it's rarely, but on busy days, easily 30 times a day, because otherwise I've got to use my time and brain power to do this. And I've got to like grok lots of things. There's lots of things coming at me. And that so what button is awesome at doing that thinking for me. I go through it myself, and it's basically an outline. I don't completely rely on it, but it does sort of like the first pass. And I found that to be, a killer app, right? Like, I can't live without it. Same thing with my little extract learnings button. specifically like on long reads or YouTube videos, where now, again, I can consume hours and hours of learning from YouTube videos effortlessly in a matter of minutes by using that button. That's a killer app. Those are killer apps for me. You might, again, work with some kind of documents. You might be part of your job might be scanning through long contracts, and you need to look for certain types of situations or whatever. Then that's the button that you should build for yourself. And like, find those. That's the best advice I can give you right now, is find those for you, and you will learn a bunch of things from that. And then again, if you're available on Saturday, please come, and we'll have a good time. Okay, I'm going to leave you guys in Luis's capable hands. Thanks for being here with us. Yeah.
Thanks, Dimitri. Yeah, to kind of piggyback off of that thought, if you are creating these, like Dimitri's talking about his killer app, and it uses this one block pattern, I definitely recommend you take a little bit of time, figure out what your killer app is, and post it in the Insights channel. Like, you might find that a bunch of you are actually creating useful use cases that are going to be really great for each other, right? And so it's cool to kind of share these learnings as you're going through and building and thinking about, as I'm browsing the web, whether it's documents, videos, various kinds of web pages, what is something that you can make that experience better for yourself? Um, okay, we're going to spend a few minutes answering some questions, and then we'll wrap up. We've got a couple of minutes. Um, and if you also have to leave at the top of the hour, no worries. I may stick around for about 5 minutes or so after the top of the hour. Chris, I see that you have your hand raised.
Yeah, so just thanks very much. Very useful. I was thinking about uh say you have content on a page.
Mm-hmm.
I want to be able to take the content of that page and then trigger off another query, if you like. So, for example, you could say, here are the people in a company. Find me the
Mm-hmm.
people in the company, and then you want to basically circle through and find the details of all of those other individuals in the company. Is there a way of, because at the moment it just seems like this is just a um you're just getting one kind of feedback. There's no looping of any sort. So I'm just wondering, would you have to store it into a variable and then you recycle the variable over a number of times? Do you see what I'm saying? So I'm not sure
Yeah.
how you to cycle through, loop through the information.
What you're describing is a more complex agent that we're going to get to in a couple of weeks. Um,
Right. Okay.
Yeah, but it's really important that we all understand this basic pattern first. So
Right. Okay.
even if it's just a partial, um, like a partial agent for your entire use case, you might think about an agent using this pattern as being extract all of the entities mentioned in this piece of content or this web page that I'm looking at, and give me their name and their position and how they're related to the content that we're browsing on the web, right? Just to kind of frame it in terms
Yeah.
of this
Yeah.
specific lesson. And then later on, we're gonna show you how to iterate through. You can
Got
generate
it.
these lists, and
Perfect.
then there's this thing called a run workflow block where you can actually iterate through the list and run these sub processes, you know.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
So
Brilliant. No, look
we'll
forward
get
to
there,
it.
but yeah, great use case.
Great. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Ted.
Yeah, I have a question on. I kind of sent this really long thing in the questions yesterday, but over time I've had to really put some guardrails around prompts more in the AI model, right? And
Mm-hmm.
that's just happened over time. And when I just had to increase my confidence in the output, I use these to do complex engineering problems. I have a lot of liability if I mess up. And so I'm wondering, what are there certain things built in? So when prompt provides an output, there's a lot of ways that could be guardrailed. I want it to be a certain length. I want it to be a certain level of understanding, just some basic stuff like that. Is that built in, or do we need to add that into these prompts? Because my prompts get really long because of that.
Yeah, you should. You definitely want to include them in the prompts. Like we're very agnostic when it comes to all of
Yeah,
that stuff, which has its pros and cons, right? The pro
right.
is like we're not building anything in, so you don't need to take into account any specific things other than what the restrictions are on the model itself.
Hmm.
But the downside is you do have to include that. One thing that we didn't cover today, but is it's important and I'm going to introduce it here, but I don't want folks to get confused, is there's another type of prompt um, in addition to the prompt that exists in this block. And it's called the system prompt. And the system prompt, which appears using this tab at the top, is sort of like these general instructions for this particular AI workflow. And so this is a great place to include any sort of guardrails, any background information that the agent should know, any sort of guidelines as to what its overall purpose is. And it's not really a place to include specific instructions, right? So if I were to make a good example of this is let's say I wanted to make an agent that, let me delete all of this here. Instead of extracting all learnings, let's say I wanted to make an agent that, qualify this lead for our company. Uh, is it worth pursuing? You know, at this point, if we were just to give the AI agent this prompt, it would have no idea about what our company does, about who we are, about our products or services, about the ideal customer profile. That is information that you don't necessarily want to include every time you write a generate text block. And so that information can be included in the system prompt. And the system prompt, this information is contextual throughout the entire workflow.
Okay.
So
That
that
looks
would be
like
the
what I
place
was
for
looking
it.
for.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So hopefully that answers your question. We haven't
Yep.
really covered it. And so I figured it's appropriate since we're talking about prompting to introduce
Mhm.
the system prompt here. I also there's a good video course available on our YouTube channel that I recommend if you're interested in system prompts. I'll include that here, and it kind of gives an explanation of the system prompt as well.
Great. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, good question. Julie.
Yes, I've asked a little. We have a lively discussion in the chat too, but my background is in regulated industries, federal government, big banks, and
Mhm.
there's a lot of requirements and complexities around content produced. In
Mhm.
particular, things like you have to add this disclosure, you have to add this disclaimer, anything
Mhm.
customer, right? Email, blog posts, etc. And I played around with this a little in the agents I was building just to see will it include a disclaimer, and I did that in the block prompt.
Mhm.
But one block prompt or system prompt was my question. Where does it really go if you have to include, this is not my this is my own opinion, not tied to my company, that type of thing, if for a LinkedIn
Mhm.
post or blog post. But sometimes it might differ by role. So if
Mhm.
my role is, internal, or if I'm client facing, I may have to disclose a different type of disclosure. And so
Mhm.
is that something that the block prompt, if it's this role, then it's this prompt. How have you addressed those types of content complexities for regulated environments?
Sure. Yeah. Let's take this example, this specific example, and work through it. One
Mhm.
follow-up question, is the disclaimer exact text that needs to be included?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. That makes it even easier. So let's take a look at this here. Um, let's change this prompt to say, form a controversial opinion about the content, right? Use Markdown, you know, we can remove this. This might require an additional step here, which we learned in the first 4 agent builds that we did. And that is using this display content block. This display content block, as we saw, just generates whatever text is in here. And so what we can do is we can include variables as well in here, and it will print out the value that the variable represents, as well as whatever text we type in. And so if you were making, you might consider creating an AI, you know, specific AI agents for each of those specific roles, right? So one is
Okay.
for that person, and then you would, rather than displaying this content, you can save this to a variable, which we call, you know, opinion or whatever we want to call it. Opinion. Yes, I can spell. And then you would include that variable at the top, and then you would include the exact text of that disclaimer. This is my opinion and does not reflect the views of Acme Corp. Right? Does that make sense?
Yep.
Yeah, so for anything like this, it's always better, I think, to hard code. I call it hard coding. There's no coding
Yes.
involved, but just to type it in there. Great question, because I definitely think there are other folks besides yourself, Julie, that are in are in a similar situation where there's like very exact things that need to be addressed when generating certain pieces of content with AI.
Mhm. Great. Thank you.
Of course, yeah. Alex.
So this may be a Luddites question, but I was trying to understand through the when we create the agent and let's say we're making it web specific, right? And we're looking at a site. Can it be rather than a page? Can it analyze an entire site? So let's say I want movies of the 80s. I'm on Netflix's page and I want movies of the 80s, but Netflix buries all of its titles in different genres that may be on different pages. Will it crawl and gather all of those titles for me just from one single prompt? Or do I have to kind of create different, you know, I think we had an example where you were running steps and you were storing a variable. Does it go back to that storage of a variable? Variable one is this, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah. Um, it will not crawl the entire site. So how this works, particularly for the browser extension run mode, is it sees the exact content of whatever page we're on. So uh, it's not going to have the capability to see like if you know here we have like 5 articles, it's not going to be able to scrape all of those 5 articles, much less like the entire website of The Verge, right? However, there are ways to architect your agent in order to find what you're looking for. Um, Again, we're kind of delving into a more advanced build, right? Because there are different steps to this. There's and different approaches. Whether like an approach to this might be to uh, query Google multiple times, right? And have the AI agent figure out what are the Google queries to actually answer this question, and then get those sites and then scrape all those sites and then compile that all together. That's kind of like one of the very last projects that we're going to build here together during this boot camp. So for the purposes of like the scope of this lesson, I'm going to say
Yeah.
not possible, but
Yes.
for
Okay.
the scope of MindStudio, it is possible. Yeah.
But it's more like an aggregator in that sense then, right?
Correct. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Got
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, good question. I in over the course of like some of our tutorials on YouTube, we kind of build out this kind of research report generator that does something similar to kind of answer a query like that. So that's yeah, cool use case. And we're definitely gonna get to it. Okay. Seema.
Hi, Louis. My question was going back to that system prompt, and I know you guys may go through it in more detail, but just curious if you do include any, like if you want to include a ideal customer profile or anything about your company, when you include it in the system prompt, does that then apply just for this flow, or does that apply across all of your flows?
Yeah, you're saying if you create multiple workflows in a
Mm-hmm.
single project?
Yeah.
Yeah, great question. This system prompt applies just to the workflow here. So if I say, you know, uh, as an assistant, your name is Robert, whatever. So now it knows that its name is Robert, right? If we create a new workflow,
Mm-hmm.
that system prompt is completely different for this particular workflow. Yeah, good question.
Okay. Thank you for clarifying.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but if you want to include that information, you can. I would just copy and paste if there are certain elements that you want to include in each of the system prompts.
Okay, good reminder. That.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
For sure. Okay, Kemi, and then Kemi's going to be the last question. Then we're going to wrap up this session here. Oh, and Dimitri's back.
I'm
Hey.
back. We can
Yeah.
continue the session if you want.
Yeah, great.
I've got another thing I want to show you guys. So if you want to stick around, we can do more. Okay?
Okay, awesome. Yeah, let's do that.
Okay. Tammy.
Thank you so much for today's session. There are currently 2 use cases I'm working on. The first one is like I do career coaching. So the first one is I built something like that. Upload your resume, then also upload the job description. And now ask the agent to compare the two and tell me the percentage of compliance, like.
Oh, I think we
Okay.
lost you. Kemi, we lost you after the word compliance.
Yeah.
I guess, guys, she's talking about ATS systems and how your resume complies within the applicant tracking.
Mm-hmm.
Just a guess.
Okay. Well, yeah, I mean, I think she's gone, but the point is that, yes, you can give it 2 things and say, compare them for whatever, as long as it understands what you're how to compare them, as long if it knows what this ATS is or some other thing that you describe to it what it is, then that's an easy use case to use 2 variables and compare them to one another. Okay. Can I, if you guys still want to hang out, right? Obviously, everybody's free to go. You handled all the questions. But I want to show you something that I think you haven't talked about. So go ahead.
Sorry, I just had a quick one. How clever is the display block? I mean, in terms of formatting.
The display block?
It will type in exactly what you type as you type it. It's just meant to kind of relay information that is included in that message. So there's actually no AI processing involved in the display content block.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm just thinking, so can you get down to control fonts and I know we did Markdown, but I'm just wondering how clever you can get, because it seems like the generate text is purely generate text, right? And if you want to display something, you'd use the display box to kind of give it the styling and the formatting that you'd want. Is that right?
Well, you can actually use both. Again, in many things you'll find in MindStudio, there's multiple ways to do things, right? You could just use, okay, so again, let's quickly take a look at this and let's quickly answer that question. So we'll build a new agent and we're going to again build our TLDR. We'll call it, it kind of doesn't matter again what you call it here. And then we're just going to, actually doesn't matter because I'm just going to display stuff here. I'm just going to leave this to be on demand and we're going to display things. We're going to do 2 things. I'm going to say generate text and I'm going to say write a blog post about AI transformation. Okay, I'm like literally going to hard code this thing in, and then I'm going to say display to user, and I'm just going to publish it, And I'm just going to open it. So what is this thing going to do? It's instantly going to go off, call the model, and it's going to write a post about thing. Now, here's what came back. Here's a draft blog post on AI transformation. And then it's got this, unformatted, generally, there's some bullet points here, but generally unformatted text that's here. Now, notice we didn't use any display block here. This is just a generate text block, but its output behavior is set display to user. And so it's just displaying back to us what it did. By the way, watch this. If I take this exact same thing and I open up Claude and I say the same thing, write a blog post, that's all that's happening. It's going to write a blog post about transformation. It's going to come back to it. Now here, it decided it is going to use some Markdown. And so it did a better output. Like this model is doing a better output and doing it this time. We didn't specify it, but that's all it did. It just wrote as if we sent it a command, which is indeed what we're doing. We're just sending a command to a model and saying, whatever comes back, go ahead and display it to user. Our other version is save it to a variable so we can use it later, right? Now, look what I can do here. I can say here, for example, use Markdown. Markdown. I can also do some other things here. Like I can specify what I want is I want the title. I want the subtitle. I want, a 2-paragraph graph summary. Okay, and typically, again, these kinds of things we like to put in brackets, but it doesn't matter. You could have done it without it, but this is like good practice. And then I want, bullet points about, the rest. Literally, it can be like this terrible prompt, by the way. But I'm trying to show you that, like, you can make this kind of a monstrosity and say go. And that's what it's going to do. Is it's going to come back and it's going to say, okay, you gave me some more guidance on what kind of a blog post you want me to write. And I get an error, weirdo-rama, some kind of model error here. And so, yeah, so these kinds of things can live while it's processing its thing here. I don't know what it's doing. Try refreshing it. There
Okay,
you
so
go.
it sounds like
You see-
generate text is the thing that does the styling and everything for you,
Well,
right?
so both blocks can do the styling, meaning Markdown can exist both in the display block and it can also exist in the generate block. And so there's our big headline that we set, our big title. Here's our subtitle. Here are that sort of summary I said, and here are bullet points for the rest. It also added a conclusion here, but like we can specify, this is again, this templating thing that Luis was just showing you. But what I wanted to show you is that you can do that without even doing it in the display block. You can do it directly in here. And then this, and by the way, if we do this, watch this. If we say save to variable, and I'm just going to call this, the post. That's what's here, the blog post. And now I'm going to go here and I'm going to use display content block. And here I'm not going to put any formatting. Oops. But I am simply going to show what's in the variable post. And what do you think we're going to get here?
Exactly the same.
Yeah, we're going to get formatted text, right? Because the text got formatted here. And so now the variable has all of this formatted text already. And so when we display it, it's just going to display all the formatted text. And so you can do the formatting in the display block. You can do the formatting in the generation. It just depends on the use case, and it's really up to you when you do it. Okay.
Right. I think I understand the distinction now.
Great.
It's one you can, so on the display block, you're literally, there's no creation. That's it. It's
That's
just
right.
output.
It's just
That's
output.
That's it. That's the thing I didn't get.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so over here, if you can put, blah, 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 and hello world,
Perfect.
it's just going to write that. Yeah. It's just going to write whatever it is you see here.
And you can include the Markdown formatting in the display content block if you want to. So there's a bunch of different ways to do this. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Clever.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Very clever.
Okay. I saw Preeti.
Hi,
Hey.
Jim.
Oh, I'm
Uh,
sorry. I'm sorry to interrupt. But Kemi had her hand raised and was
I see. Okay, well, let's come back
is
to
it okay
Kemi.
if we
Preeti,
is
we'll
it
come
okay if we
back to
do
you.
Kemi just because we lost her and she was asking a question a little bit earlier? Yeah, sorry about that,
For sure.
Preeti.
Let's do that.
Thank you. So I was saying that the use case I'm working on, I want the agent to be able to compare a resume to a job description.
Mm-hmm.
Give me the accuracy or how aligned is the resume to the job description. And also to probably then I can save the output as a variable. Then I can ask it to recommend an optimized resume that will be well targeted to the job description.
Right.
But while I tried doing that, I was running into some issue, and the agent was telling me that my resume was empty. The variable resume was empty. So I don't know what the issue was.
Well, you made a mistake somewhere in your variable, in configuring your variables. It depends on how you got your resume in there again. So it's hard to tell. You can maybe send it to us. We can take a look at it, but like it's really easy to
Yeah.
do. You store your resume in a variable. You store the job description in a variable. You call a model. You give it both of the variables. You say compare these for how aligned they are, and then it comes back. And then you can also send it to a model and say, take my resume and rewrite it to be compatible with the job description. Very, very easy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Kemi, feel free to share your link and your scenario in Slack, and we can all take a look and crowdsource the answer for you.
Mm-hmm.
Or you can also bring it to any build club that we host as well. This
Mm-hmm.
is a perfect example for build club.
Yeah, if you're around Saturday, I'll build it for you on Saturday.
Yeah, thank you.
Uh-huh.
Okay, Preeti, sorry about that. Thanks for your patience.
Hi, no worries, Luis. I have a question around the user input. So let's say and it's around the options, right? Where you can provide the options to the user. Example, like if I want to select that I want to only target certain regions for my product. And I provide, and the user is providing like multiple options. One, how many options are are ideal to provide? One is that. And then second is, if I select that maximum selections that are allowed for those options or any amount, then how does the model work in the background?
So let me share my screen and maybe I can ask a couple of follow-up questions to see if I'm understanding your question correctly.
Or it would be easier, I can share my screen if that works.
Oh yeah, go for it.
Okay, I'll share my screen. Give me 1 second. All right. Okay, so do you see my screen here?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so just so everybody understands what we're looking at, we're inside of a user input. This user input is a text choice input, meaning it'll be multiple choice form. And we have 5 different options, and the user can select, it's like a checkbox. They can pick whichever ones they want to select.
So yeah, so basically like with this, I wanted to pull information from all these platforms, right? And so I have 4 options here, but then here in the maximum selections allowed,
Mm-hmm.
and you can see it here, right? So a user can select like, hey, if I want the output from TikTok or Pinterest. So it's easier if I only select one, if the user only selects one. But what happens like if they select multiple of them? Like let's say if I select all of them.
So this variable that you've created called platform preference
Right.
represents all of the selections in a comma separated list. So when let's actually, I'm going to take over and screen share, and let's take a look at what this looks like in a kind of a simplified version. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Okay. Can you stop sharing for a moment, and then I'll go ahead and share my screen.
Yeah. 1 second.
Okay, let's get into screen share here. Okay. So I have a text choice. I'm going to call this input choices, and I'm going to say make some or select all that apply. And I can say vanilla, I can say chocolate, I can say hazelnut. I don't know if I spelled that right, but that's okay. I
Man, you're
can
making me
say
hungry.
I know. I can say you know, ham. This is just for the example, right? So we're going to select all that apply. One of these things is not like the other, right? Now inside of our workflow, let me delete some of this stuff here. And we'll add a display content block so that we can see what happens when we make the selection. Oh, I forgot. We want to allow any amount. Okay, that's correct. We want to allow them to click on multiple. So you can see it, me clicking on the right-hand side. It allows us to check multiple, right? Now, when we have this selection, we can then display the choices. So if I include that variable choices, let's see what happens. And we'll go on demand so that we don't have to worry about any of this stuff. And let's preview it. We will open up the draft agent. And now we can make some choices. So when we continue, these choices are what's being saved into the variable. And this is what it looks like. It looks like this. It creates this array, which is a comma separated list.
Yeah.
Does that make sense, Preeti? So this is actually what's getting saved as the variable here.
Got it. So essentially then it takes all of them into consideration while giving the output, right?
Right.
Right.
Okay, sounds good. And do you have any recommendations on the number of options that you should provide? Like, I know like minimum, the better, but
It really depends on your use case. It's not really something we can recommend because it's going to be different for everyone. So it just depends on the agent that you're building and how you're architecting it.
sounds good. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I think we should take Dushyant, and then I think it might be good to wrap up the session. I just want to make sure that this is still digestible for folks that aren't joining. And we're getting to the 1.5 hour mark here. Is that okay with everyone here? Cool.
I thought
Okay,
Dimitri was
Dushyant, go
going to
ahead.
share us with something.
You know
before he-
what? I think Luis is right. I'm going to do this on Saturday, and we'll build some
Okay.
additional type of agents. I don't want to add
All
more.
right, fair enough.
Hi,
So
Luis.
was that why you had your hand raised?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Sorry. So probably you can move me to my question to Saturday. I thought I had a question related JSON and converting it into HTML. That's where I had trouble. So I don't know if this is the right class to ask that question. This is the
It's not, but
Yeah.
we can talk about it on Saturday, or you can ping me directly if you don't want to wait, and
Sure.
I'll take a look at what you've got.
Sure. Thank you. Then I'll ping you.
Thanks.
All right, folks.
Okay.
Well, so go ahead, Luis.
I was just going to do a little quick recap to close this thing out of kind of what we learned
it.
today and the takeaways. So, just as a quick cap on all of this, we learned about variables, what they are, and how to use them inside of your AI agents. We learned about prompting and how one simple pattern with by changing one line in the prompt can have a massive impact on the type of agents that you're building and how you can make many agents just by changing one line in a prompt. And then we also learned some best practices around prompting. That is tagging your variables using those XML tags and also utilizing Markdown and creating templating for the responses. So hopefully this was all super valuable for you guys. Hopefully you learned some good stuff here. Dimitri, anything else to add as we close out the session?
Are you guys learning stuff in these things, or does it feel like things are moving forward? I know we taught it. I guess I'm asking, did you learn it? Luis, is this what we covered? That's cool. But the
You're
most
like,
important thing is like, what did you learn? And so I think again, hopefully, the more you have exposure to this, the more you will pick up. At least that's the way I learn. That's why repetition is good, and that's why I suggested to you that if you have time over the next few days, just build a bunch of single button agents that just call a model and play around with a bunch of random ideas of what you could do. And that's when you will say, okay, I get prompt engineering part. And then the rest of it will teach you JSON and all that stuff that really then opens everything up. But these are the fundamentals. Cool.
mm-hmm.
All right, folks. Well, good to see you. We'll see you in Slack. Oh, one more thing. Thanks so much. Lots of people have been sharing their experiences on LinkedIn and talking about this bootcamp. That's awesome. It's great for you because it gets people's attention. They know you're learning AI agents. We've had people already report, that their former bosses reached out to them and colleagues and new people, and that their audience is growing because people are interested in AI. And you're experiencing this very unique thing. And people want to know about it. They want to know what it's like in the boot camp. They want to know what you're learning. Take advantage of that. Share that with them. Start now. You don't have to wait till you're certified to do it. Start making the LinkedIn algorithm understand that you and AI are one. that when it's trying to recommend content to people who are interested in AI, that you're a person whose content they should be recommending. It takes time for the algorithm to kind of like pick that up, right? And so the sooner you start, the more you do it, the faster your profile becomes associated in the algorithm with that. And that's when, like, again, lots of opportunities open up for whatever it is you guys are trying to do beyond, learning these skills and that. So please keep doing it, and great to see it. We're always excited that you do it. All right, guys. Hopefully I'll see some of you on Saturday, yeah? Cool.
Dimitri, one last question. Saturday, 10 a.m. PST, right?
Pacific.
Pacific. Thank you so much.
Okay. See you guys.
Thanks, everyone.
Yeah,
Have
bye.
a great day.